God be with you. I'm really excited today because we have a guest speaker. I'll put this over here so it doesn't... I was trying to figure out how I would introduce her on the way over here to work today. And I kept coming back to two different things. And the first thing I kept coming back to was one of the things that I get asked about the most is, yeah, Nick, but what does redemption look like? And Nick, but what does grace look like in practice? What does second chances look like? And I love those questions because that's kind of what we're all about as a faith community, as we try to take these highfalutin ideas and take them out of our heads and move them into our hearts and into practice and ask, what does grace look like in practice? If I do get every second chance possible, what does that actually look like in practice? And how do I give that to other people? So I was thinking about that. And then I was also thinking about how the best way to answer those questions isn't by me trying to preach my way through them, but is actually by bringing someone in to tell a story about their life. Because those ideas like love and grace and resurrection and redemption, yeah, we can talk until we're blue in the face about them, but when we actually see someone living them out, when we see someone who has journeyed through them, when we see someone who has built a whole business around them, then we can go oh, that's what it looks like. Oh, I get it now. I see that now. And we can both celebrate what they're doing, and more importantly, we can be inspired to go and have that for ourselves. And we can be inspired to go and live it out. And so a friend of mine, Brian, was telling me about a woman named Emily and how she has this popcorn business that is the best popcorn I'll ever possibly taste. And I was like, I don't know, man. I've had a lot of good popcorn in my life. And then he opened up a bag of it. And oh my God. The most delicious, amazing popcorn. It was gone before I got home. And he's told me a bit about her story, and I thought, oh my gosh, she needs to come and speak at the church. And so he gave me her number, and I called her, and the next thing we knew, she was scheduled to come in and talk to us on April 6th, which was like Christmas time, right? And I was like, that's so far away. But now April 6th is here. And so I'm really, really excited to introduce you to Emily O'Brien. She is the founder of Comeback Snacks. She is a storyteller, a philanthropist, and just an all-around good human being, and she is here to tell her story with us. So would you please give a warm Wellington Square welcome to Emily O'Brien. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Perfect. We're good.
Wow, look at all these wonderful faces here today. I'm truly honored to be here and share my story of, disaster, redemption, second chances, and comebacks. So here we are. My name's Emily O'Brien. I grew up in Hamilton, Ontario. Yes. I had two great parents. Grew up in Westdale. I was honor roll student, went to university. You think everything was going to go completely right. I did everything right. My parents did everything right. So how did I end up in federal prison? Well, as life may have it, things can go really, really wrong. And what went wrong in my family was that something completely unexpected happened, and that was divorce. I grew up Catholic. That wasn't supposed to happen. This dream, picturesque life of what I was supposed to do just went away. And whenever you also see people that you love in pain, it's really, really hard. It doesn't matter how old you are. Some people were like, oh, and I was 25 at the time, but it still made me really, really upset because it was just something I didn't imagine. And unfortunately, I turned to substance abuse, use and abuse, alcohol and then cocaine, and not exactly the right choice, but it was the choice that I chose to block any kind of feeling because I was just age shamed. People told me, yeah, you're too old to be sad about this. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to not be sad. And of course, ignorance is not bliss in this case, just kind of ignoring the feelings. And I met someone through my work. Actually, he was sober, allegedly, and was really, really kind. Just helped me do simple things like help me walk my dog. And I had a business at the time, helped me do simple things. Well, I've way better business now, but that's not the whole point of this talk. I had a business at the time, and he helped me just do simple tasks. Just a really nice, genuine person. And he's like, you know what, why don't I just take you on a trip? We'll get out of the city, and it'll be completely awesome. And I was like, that sounds good. I'd traveled with people before. I traveled to Indonesia. I worked for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I went to Peru and volunteered. I went to Costa Rica and volunteered. Like, traveling abroad was nothing unusual to me, because I loved traveling to different places and meeting the beautiful people all around the world and trying to help out where I could. That's actually why my degree was in international development from the University of Guelph. Didn't really think that turned into international drug smuggling, but here we are. Anyway, so we go down to St. Lucia, and everything is completely fine. He's awesome. We're having a great time. And the third day in, I'm about to go down to the pool, and he looks at me, grabs my hand, he's like, "You're not going down to the pool today. Did you really just think this was all fun and games?" His demeanor completely changed. I don't know who this person was. There was a stone cold look in his eye that it was lifeless. And I didn't really know what to expect, but I had to get in the car with him. Like, this is a much longer story, but I only have 20 minutes, so there's lots more information online. You can kind of read all about it, but I'll try to make this as succinct but as, impactful as possible for you in the storytelling element. Anyway, so he's like, "You're getting in the car with me, and we're here to work." So I get in the car, and these people pick us up that I don't know. I'm in St. Lucia. We drive to this place that looks like a bed and breakfast. I still don't really know what's going on, so I'm not like looking around trying to see if there's landmarks that I can recognize to try to run away, because this is a person that I know and trusted, and I'm still not really scared yet. I'm like, okay. And then we go into this place that looks, like a bed and breakfast, and this woman comes out. She's like, "Thank you so much for doing this." And I was like, "What?" She brings me inside, and I go inside with him. He's with me. There's a couple other people, but I'm still not really nervous yet until I go inside. And so inside, there's bricks, but the bricks are also covered with cocaine. Bricks and bricks of cocaine in the walls. So the house is just completely stuffed. And that's when I know I'm in a lot of trouble. And then he looks at me, he's like, "I'm so sorry." So I found out when he booked the tickets, he sent my passport information to these people down here that he owed money to. And so he's like, "You don't want to mess with these people. I already told them that you're doing it. I'm so sorry, but we have to do this." I didn't know who this person was. I didn't know how this happened. I think I was more in shock than afraid at this point. I didn't really think it was real. And this was on the Wednesday. And he's like, "Don't try to tell anyone. Don't try to notify anyone. We will know, and it's not going to be good for you." And I grew up like a normal child. Like, I got into some trouble in high school, like drinking in public, but like there wasn't anything of this magnitude. Like, I didn't know this world. I didn't know this life, and I just wanted to go home. And they had my passport information, so I wasn't about to, all I thought about was the movies and that scary stuff that happens in the movies. So I just wanted to go home. And so we still had a couple days left on this trip, and at this point, I thought this trip was gonna be like a sober trip, and at this point I didn't even care. I just drank my face off for 2 days, which, I don't know, I didn't really know what else to do because I just wanted the time to pass. But on the last day, I made the conscious choice not to drink that day because I wanted my body language to be the loudest language in the room once I landed at Pearson. And sometimes alcohol can obviously help hide your feelings, help hide anything wrongdoing, right? So I was like, I don't want this to be like what I'm trying to portray. I don't want the people at the border to think that I'm actually willingly trying to do this. But I also can sabotage this like on my own, because if you're carrying a couple $100,000 of someone else's drugs and you say, "Hey," and tell on yourself and sabotage the whole operation, they lose money. Guess who they're coming after? Me. So this is the Wednesday was when it all happened. The Friday was when I was suited up with 2 kilograms of cocaine strapped to my body with him. I had to wear a dress that was completely not my style, which is another reason why I felt so out of place. It had flowers on it. I'm just like, I'm a happy person, but I never wear flowers. I think that's what set it off personally. They're like, "Oh, no. Anyway, so we land at Pearson, and he's had my passport this whole trip because I trusted him. I was traveling with him, so I never even got my passport back, so I couldn't do anything. My hands were tied. And we land at Pearson, and he thinks everything's gonna go fine. You know, I'm sweating at this point. My eyes are just darting all over the place. Obviously something's wrong, but again, I wasn't gonna be like, help me, you know, and risk this whole operation, because then it's dangerous for me. It's incredibly dangerous to do that. So I'm walking behind him, and you go through the first checkpoint, and this is 2015. So it's actually 10 years, 10 years ago this year, so happy anniversary. And so this time it was like the written marker. You'd write the number, like there's, they write any number on that customs sheet and circle it, and you don't really know what it means. And you know, so he thinks, oh, we're gonna get through, we're gonna get through. And I'm just pissed off at this point. I'm mad about it. The safest way out was through, and I just wanted to go home. I just want nothing to do with him after, because I was hurt, I was embarrassed, I was mortified that I could let someone trick me this way. But I also knew that, was it my substance? I don't know, like, did something happen to my brain? Which wasn't the case. But, you know, I really began to blame myself for this whole thing. Just all those thoughts going through my head. We go through the second security checkpoint, and the security guard, or a CBSA officer, you know, you can, at this point, this is at Pearson Terminal 1, so it's like I'm looking at the doors, and you can see like people with the signs and everything, like, welcome home. And then there's one guard right there, and you have to show me your paper. And he's like, oh no, you guys are going right. And so at this point, I know that, you know, the jig is up. I feel a sense of relief, but I still don't really know what's to come, really. Again, ignorance was not bliss, and I never thought I'd be in this situation, but I was. And they immediately separate us, ask us a series of questions. You know, what do you do for work? Would you file on your taxes? Yada, yada, yada. And the last question they asked me was, okay, Miss O'Brien, we're gonna do a physical search on you. Is there anything that you want to declare? So at this point, I'm like, And I stared at the floor for what must have been an eternity, because they had to ask me one more time. And they're like, Miss O'Brien, is there anything you want to declare? And I looked at the officer right in the eye, and I was like, yes. I said yes, because I wasn't gonna lie to a federal agent. I was done protecting this mean man. Oh, I had to watch my words there for a second. Done protecting this mean man. And I said yes, and I was placed in a holding cell, which I thought I could just explain and go home. I didn't know. They're like, you're not going home. And they had to call my parents, who, you know, they weren't really in the best spot, but they had to come bail me out, and that was when the big journey really, really started. I had to move back in with my mom. You know, this wasn't just something you can call a friend to bail you out and you go home. That's not how it works. Now, my 20-year-old self had to move back in with my mother in Hamilton, and I was on house arrest, and I couldn't do anything except go to work and go to the doctor. I couldn't even go to the gym. And this lasted for 2.5 years, and I wasn't even allowed to talk about the case. People that I knew were just like, oh, of course she's doing this with all her traveling, and you know, it was humiliating, and it was also the most isolating and dark place that I'd ever really been. You know, I was just living in my mom's attic, and I couldn't talk about it to anyone. I was also very paranoid that anytime I left the house, someone was watching me, coming after my family. I didn't know, so it was a very, very dark time. And it wasn't until like one day, and I think God probably had something to do with it, but one day I just got tired of living in this emotional squalor. I couldn't live there anymore. I spent a lot of time with my mom. I also had to like spend time with my dad. I basically couldn't go anywhere without a handwritten note or with my parents. So there was a lot of tension in the household. But you know, I realized that they were innocent victims in that case. And we began to like look at old family photo albums, and I knew that I wasn't this criminal person. I did something wrong, yes, but I wasn't this whole criminal like 365 days a year, like for the last 25 years of my life. That wasn't who I was. And I knew that I was always a happy kid, full of love and surrounded by love, and I had a lot of potential. And I wasn't gonna let this aura of, oh, she's a bad person, lock her up forever, be the rest of my life. Absolutely not. I think it's a little bit of the rebelliousness in me. But I also had a lot of work to do. You know, I did have to recognize that substances were a part of this thing. Did I orchestrate this whole thing? No, but maybe were my substance use at the time like caused me to not see certain warning signs in this person? Probably. So I had to take responsibility for that. I had to take accountability for that. And I'd put my parents through so much grief, and my sister for the first 6 months wouldn't even talk to me. And I knew that I had to fix it. And so the first step to my comeback was taking accountability. And then I found out I was gonna have to do prison time. And at first my mom's like, no, she's terrified. And I was like, okay, Mom, I began to kind of study the place that I was going. And I wasn't a violent offender, I didn't have prior history, but I got the mandatory minimum for what that was, bringing those drugs over that line. And I wasn't gonna go to trial because, again, I'm not gonna testify against these people. So that's, again, dangerous. You're not gonna do that. You're just gonna say, yes, I did it. Let's go. Let's move along. So January 16th was my mom's birthday, 2018. It was also the year and the day that I went to prison. So I actually gave her the gift of sobriety, the gift of freedom, because we actually saw this at the light of the end of the tunnel. The legal fees, the court dates, everything just kept going on. And knowing that my time to come to prison, I was ready. I was ready to take on this challenge, because at this point I really did believe in myself, and I believed in my abilities, and I was like, it couldn't just have been me. This could not just have been me. And so I knew I was gonna meet people in prison that were also just like me, that had skills and talents, but that were just completely misunderstood as people because of one indiscretion. And we've all had to ask for forgiveness. Every single person in this room has, and that was also something that I had to learn how to do. I also had to learn how to apologize. I had to show my family and the community that I was gonna put in the work. I understand that drugs are a very dangerous thing. Like they clouded my judgment. And they've caused a lot of harm all around the world. And so I knew that, and I believe that justice is a part of wrongdoing, absolutely. So I was ready, and I wasn't like, what's that thing? I wasn't dragging my heels, is that the word? Dragging my heels, yeah, I wasn't doing that. And when I got to prison, I actually met so many other people that were just like me, that were just kind of condemned by society because of this one bad thing, despite all the good that they'd done in their life. And so I went to Grand Valley Institution for Women in Kitchener, Ontario. And so this is medium security. So actually in the medium security, you all cook your own food. And we had access to a certain variety of groceries. Our budget was $37.01 a week from, it was the prison kitchen. So you kind of had to learn how to manage your budget and stuff like that. And we cook all of our own favorite meals from home. Popcorn was a popular prison snack. We talked about what we were gonna do after incarceration. And we really didn't know, because even finding employment was challenging. And I was like, maybe there's something I can do. And as we were making this popcorn and seeing everyone put different recipes on, I saw that popcorn was this blank canvas for creativity, connection, community, and hope. And so I was like, maybe, and what I also like about popcorn is that every kernel is like a snowflake, right? Pops differently, it pops different. But it also matters on the environment. You have to cook popcorn at a perfect level for it to pop. So if you put it in a pot there's no heat, it's not gonna pop. And if you put it with too high heat, it's gonna burn. So your environment is a huge factor in how you thrive. And so I was like, maybe I can just start a popcorn company and employ all of us and show us that we are worthy of redemption. We are worthy of second chances. For some of us, it's first chances. I was extremely lucky that I had a wonderful family to support me. It wasn't easy. No prison term is easy, but I also realized that there's a lot of people in there that had been through so much worse than me. Luckily, I was never physically abused in my situation or sexually abused or any of those things in mine, but a lot of women had been. And so I also saw that I was very, very lucky. And I wanted to do something to help, because that's what I was raised. My family said, Emily, there's gotta be something good that comes out of it. And that's what it was. So it started out with popcorn kernels and stamps, and popcorn was that vector. It's not really about the popcorn. Popcorn was like the vector to the whole overarching theme, is that mistakes are universal, but so are comebacks. And every single person in this room, again, has made a mistake, has needed to make a comeback. But I can guarantee you that no matter where you are in your life, you can do it. You just have to surround yourself with the right people, help others while you're doing it. So with Comeback Snacks, I don't want to touch on business too much, but now we employ people that have also been in prison, and I just launched a program called the Comeback Catalyst to also teach the formerly incarcerated how to launch their own business, because finding employment is difficult, but there's so many entrepreneurial traits that people have that can be put into a legal business. And so it's really rewarding work. It also helps me grow, and to see people thrive is, I think, why we're really on this planet, and to help each other when they're down, and ask for forgiveness, learn how to apologize, take ownership, commit to our goals, commit to overcoming the obstacles that we said we were going to do, and again, surrounding ourselves with beautiful communities to help us get there. So I think on that note, I wish you all, whatever comeback you want to achieve, I know that you can do it, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Is that good?
That's great.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that was awesome. Thank you. Look at them. See?
Yeah.
Thanks, Em. Clearly resonated with everyone. Thank you so much. So many takeaways from that. And I love how we can see our spirituality and our beliefs in everyday life. That we're all worthy of comebacks. That whatever you have done, whatever your story is, that is not the end, but resurrection, redemption, hope. It is possible for you and for others, and the gift that you can give yourself, as Em said, is to embrace that second chance for you and to embrace it for others. Whatever your story is, it does not have to end, but a new one can begin. And that's what Easter promises us, that the worst thing is not the last thing, that resurrection happens, that a new story can begin. But that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of hard work. Emily's done it. A bunch of you have done it. I've done it. And you can do it again. And so this time is for you. If you are facing a crossroads, if your story has ended, this is the chance to remember that your story doesn't have to end here, but a new one can begin. Maybe you've already experienced that redemption and you want to pass it on to others. This time is for you to build up the courage and the energy to say, yes, how can I inspire others? How can I pass this gift on? But whatever you need to do, this time is for you to step into this truth, to believe it, to accept it, and make it your own. There's some people in the back who'd love to say a prayer for you. There's some candles back there. There's art on the walls that you can go and look at. You can sing along with the band. You can just sit. You can listen. Do whatever you got to do. But remember, as Em said, comebacks happen. They do exist, and they are for you. And so knowing that a new story can begin today, may grace and peace be with you.